Welcome to The Bo Show. My special guest today will be Tom Mullen, author of the book An Anti-State Christmas. Tom is a best-selling libertarian author and podcast host called the Tom Mullen Talks Freedom Podcast. Some of his books include Where Do Conservatives and Liberals Come From and Whatever Happened to Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness, as well as A Return to Common Sense, Reawakening Liberty in the Inhabitants of America. He has also ghostwritten several New York Times bestsellers. His writing has been featured in Newsweek, The Huffington Post, The Washington Times, Real Clear Markets, The Daily Caller, LewRockwell.com, 321 Gold, and the Foundation for Economic Education. Tom has been a guest on Fox's Freedom Watch with Judge Andrew Napolitano, Adam versus the Man, Free Talk Live, and numerous other programs. Tom is originally a native of Buffalo, New York, and a graduate of Canisius College. He earned a master's degree in English from State University of New York College at Buffalo. He now resides with his family in Western New York. His podcast episodes and writing can be found at tommullentalksfreedom.com. Tom, welcome to the show. You know, we are in the full spirit of Christmas right now, with it just being just a few weeks away, and you've written a book titled An Anti-State Christmas. Tell me a bit about the book and what made you write it.
Well, we're rolling into our second new normal Christmas, as I call them. It just seems like at some point we've got to get back to normal. And, you know, one thing we've learned over the last 2 years is just like we knew before March 2020, locking people in their houses, closing their businesses, mandating masks for the general population, symptomatic or not, those things don't work. So why are we going to go into another Christmas and tell people don't have more than 5 people or 8 people at your house? There's just no science behind this. And I thought, you know, one of the things I cover in An Anti-State Christmas, and there's some lighthearted parts as well, but, you know, if you're a Christian, the Jesus of the Bible is by no means this meek milquetoast who doesn't want to offend anybody. He constantly butts heads with the government, and he constantly flouts regulations that are counterproductive, like, you know, not healing the man with the withered hand on the Sabbath. So, you know, we need to be peaceful, nonviolent, but we need to assert our rights and say no this year.
Well, you know, last year, of course, we were in the throes of the pandemic and lockdowns, and of course, we still are to some degree, especially in other countries. Christmas was, for many intents and purposes, canceled. Have these mandates that we are still seeing today, have they had a profound or extended effect in how we experience Christmas?
Well, I think that in general, the government and the media has promoted disproportionate fear. And that's not to say that, you know, somebody shouldn't take, you know, reasonable precautions with especially their elderly parents or grandparents. My mother's 89. We're certainly very careful with her. We all had COVID at a time when she was staying with us, and she never caught it. So I don't know what this woman's immune system is made of, but obviously it's better than ours. But in any case, it still means, of course, be careful. But you know, this year, it depends on where you live to a great extent. You know, in some states, they are back to normal in the United States and in some countries around the world. In others, you know, they're still living like it's March 2020 and we haven't learned anything. And, you know, especially here in Western New York, it's kind of a funny place because if you look like at an electoral map for what, you know, that can tell you, Western New York is all red except for the county that has Buffalo, the city of my birth, is blue. Now, Erie County just reinstituted mask mandates for all indoor spaces. Now, none of the counties around Erie, and I live in Niagara, which is a red county, they have not done this. You can wear a mask if you want. If you own a business, you can make people wear masks in order to come in, but they're not going to, the government's not going to mandate it. So it's a real ideological difference. And, you know, you don't have to drive far to be in a different world. 5 miles south of me right now, you got to wear a mask. And where I am, you don't.
Yeah, New York's very interesting. You're right about that. I know upstate, I've spent some time there, and it's very different from Manhattan. It's just entirely different. So you're right, it depends on where you live. I live in Florida, and obviously this is the land of freedom, it seems, diametrically opposed to states like California and Oregon and New York, of course. You know, I'm a Christian, and over the course of time, we've seen the secularization of this time of year, more really about Santa and elves rather than baby Jesus and what that miracle represented. Do you view this secularization as a concerted effort, almost the way communism despiritualizes a society?
Well, I certainly think that the left side of the spectrum has hostility toward religion. I don't think that's a controversial statement. And of course, at every turn they want to they want to secularize. But if you notice, it's okay to wish somebody a happy Ramadan or happy Hanukkah or happy anything but Merry Christmas, right?
Don't you dare say Merry Christmas.
Right. And a lot of that is this other idea that hey ho, let's go, Western Civ has got to go, whatever that chant from the 60s was.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just go back to the 60s. For the left, it's always the French Revolution. They're always tear down the statues, rename everything, all the streets, year one or year zero, whatever. It's just the same drill over and over. And by the way, it's always a disaster. So whatever you're going to believe in, don't believe in that. You don't have to believe in God or Christianity, but just, don't believe in government as your religion. That's another message of the book.
Well, you talk about Jesus's direct words when it comes to government suppression. Expound a bit on that, if you would, and how do you think Jesus would react to government today and what we're seeing?
Well, one of the things I say in the book is when he's crucified and there's a guy crucified next to him that I think was accused of robbery or convicted of robbery. Crucifixion's obviously a little harsh for robbery, but he doesn't fundamentally disagree that a crime like robbery should be punished. But when he gets to the woman who committed adultery, for example, he doesn't condone that. He tells her you should avoid this sin, but he doesn't think she should be stoned for it, okay? And even getting down to more relevant, when he has, and I should back up and say the Pharisees and the scribes are trying to trick him into getting into trouble his whole ministry, right? Because he threatens them. So they come and they say, oh, here's a guy with a withered hand, but it's the Sabbath. Are you going to heal him on the Sabbath? And obviously what they're trying to do is get Jesus to not help this poor guy. And trip him up on this regulation. And Jesus says, no, it's okay to do good on the Sabbath. And what a parallel, you can't treat anybody for COVID, especially last year. If we've got a new medicine that might work, nobody can talk about it. It can't even be spoken, but we can lock you in your homes and make you wash your hands. I think they even try to trip Jesus's disciples up for not washing their hands. So there's a lot of parallels between the local government in Judea in Jesus's time and the Fauciites today.
Well, I think, as I recall, the one passage of Scripture that seems to be quoted the most when it comes to governmental action is give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's. And that's how they somehow justify that Jesus was okay with taxes. But I think we're a far cry from that, are we not?
Well, I mean, I've heard people write that that's actually a comment on the monetary system because at the time, the Roman coins were debauched. It's kind of like somewhat a parallel to Federal Reserve monetary inflation, not exactly. And the Jewish coins were a lot better. So it's like, oh, that's a Roman coin? Well, pay your taxes with that and hold on to the good stuff, right? So I don't know that that's definitely true, but it's one way to look at it. But the totality of the Gospels, I mean, Jesus is constantly excoriating the local officials. And even when he gets in front of Pilate, he says nothing, basically. I'm not going to testify against myself. And he gets acquitted. And then, of course, the mob gets him executed anyway, even though he's acquitted, even though he's innocent. Boy, what another great parallel to what we're going through today.
Absolutely. Well, we've seen the devaluation of the nuclear family unit and the promotion, of course, of the state, which changes our values entirely. How do Christians counter this? What is it to maintain the family and instill values that will be ultimately diametrically opposed in the real world?
Well, every communist since Plato has wanted to get the kids away from the family and have them raised by the state. So this is not also not a new thing. That's another reason why Christmas is so important, because it's kind of a time of the year when everybody falls back on the real strength of society, which are families, networks of close friends, I mean, these are all the things that maybe even subconsciously government officials don't like because it makes them unnecessary.
Yeah.
And to the extent that you can, I mean, I've homeschooled my daughter. She's 16 now. And the primary reason I did it was to get her away from the ideological conditioning that I think the school system gives them.
Other than the lockdowns and the mandates, like mask mandates, what other measures have you seen that governments have taken to devalue Christians and Christianity?
Western civilization was once called Christendom. And, I'm a big proponent of that. No religious belief should be mandated by the state. You shouldn't be paying taxes to the state to require, membership in a church. That's what the First Amendment's actually about, is to not allow the government to create a national religion. But what most people don't know is that was insisted upon by the anti-federalists because 3 of the states had state religions. So this whole idea that the federal government should come in and not allow anyone to say God in school, that's like the whole bomb on the airport scene in that, what was it called, Meet the Parents with Ben Stiller, right? That's not what it's about. Now, again, nobody, no conservative or libertarian wants the government involved at all in religion, but it shouldn't be banning it either.
Yeah. Well, religious freedom is obviously a really hot topic right now, especially with respect to the vaccine mandates. We know that Hitler and Mao destroyed religion so that their authoritarianism would become their religion. Do you see evidence, have you seen direct evidence of something like communism prevailing over religious freedom currently, especially in this country?
Well, all of the, tactics being used by the left now are the same tactics used by the communists in the 20th century. Okay, so the statues thing, I'm no fan of the Confederacy. I've got an article on my website somewhere saying Lincoln and the Confederates were awful, because I believe they both were. But they're not tearing down those statues for that reason. They want to destroy all connection with the past. They want to destroy any connection with the founding principles. And that's just one tactic that they use. Of course, they banned religion in other countries, in the communist countries. They don't do it here because they can't get away with it, but they want to go as far as they can without going that far. So there's definitely a hostility there for sure.
And yeah, you're right. I think the tactics that are being employed may not be overtly communist, but they certainly are similar to what communist countries have done, especially Mao. I think a study came out recently, I don't know if you saw it, that Americans are less religious than ever. Fewer people believe in God, fewer people are going to church. And I'm just curious what you attribute this to.
Well, I think that is a cultural thing, and it's been part of the progressive kind of agenda to secularize for the whole past century. Again, I think this comes from left-wing thinking. I don't want to mislead people to think I don't have problems with right-wing thinking either, but we're talking specifically about the way the left attacks what I call society. And, it reminds me of the very first document in the American Revolution, The Common Sense by Thomas Paine. He starts it out before he says anything else to say there's a difference between society and government. Okay, some writers have confused them to be the same thing, but they're not. And he even goes so far as to say society is in every state a blessing, but government, even in its best state, is a necessary evil, and in its worst state, an intolerable one. And that's what I go back to when you're talking about Christmas, when you're talking about churches, community groups, family. These are all just voluntary associations. At one time, all the roads in America were privately owned. And I don't mean, people were taxed and then the money was given to a private road builder. I mean, they were privately owned. That's how far Americans were in separating society with government. And all of the current welfare programs were handled by voluntary mutual aid societies. And that's been systematically destroyed. And it's a matter that people see something that's not perfect and they say we need the government to do it. And then when the government does a much worse job, as they have with everything I just mentioned, nobody wants to go and take it back away from the government. So I don't know what the answer to that is, but definitely we got to start rethinking.
I don't see, Tom, a lot of role models today. I think a lot of the celebrities and athletes and things of that sort, from LeBron James to any given actor, Alec Baldwin, let's just say, because he's in some hot water. Who do you identify are role models out there right now that young people could either look up to or emulate in some capacity?
Well, I'd say look around your community. Those are the people that really make America go. Who started a business and made it past their first year and is employing other people? That's a hero, okay? That's somebody who's, providing a living to other people, providing products to us. Look at the volunteer organizations in your community. Those are the really selfless people. It doesn't take a government program to help somebody else. You only need the government program to force somebody else to help somebody else, okay? But the people that are out there volunteering, those are the real heroes. So, you don't have to look to somebody who's nationally famous to be a hero. Most of those people, let you down most of the time. But there's plenty of heroes all around you.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's actually a great answer. Finally, Tom, tell us where we can find your book, because it seems it's a timely read.
Well, if you want to get a free PDF copy, you can go to antistatechristmas.com and it's going to cost you your email address, and you can unsubscribe at any time, but I guarantee you won't want to. And then you can also pick up, there's a link that when you go to that link, you can also go to Amazon and get a very inexpensive paperback copy. Makes a good stocking stuffer. So if you've got friends who need to be deprogrammed, or even if they just need a few laughs, then you can pick up a cheap copy.
And I know you've ghostwritten some other books, some New York Times bestsellers, but can you tell us just briefly about some of the other books that you've written and what topics they address?
Well, they were mostly political commentary. Unfortunately, the titles and authors are top secret as part of the agreements for those. But I have written 2 #1 New York Times bestsellers, ghostwritten. I should be co-written. Ghostwriters don't just write the whole book for the author. They help and they do most of the writing, but they're conveying someone else's ideas. But I've also written 2 of my own books, Where Do Conservatives and Liberals Come From? And A Return to Common Sense. And those are both available on my website, TomMullenTalksFreedom.com.
Well, perfect. Tom Mullen, thank you so much for taking the time with me today on The Bo Show. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Bo. I appreciate being on.